Welcome to our Glory Globe TV. Here is breaking news from Korea. Yes, concerns about North Korea's chronic food shortages are growing, with multiple sources suggesting this week that deaths due to starvation are likely. Some experts say the country has hit its worst point since a 1990s famine known as the Arodas March caused mass starvation and killed hundreds of thousands of people, or an estimated 3 to 5% of what was then a 20 million strong population. Trade data, satellite images, and assessments by the United Nations and South Korean authorities all suggest the food supply has now dipped below the amount needed to satisfy minimum human needs, according to Lucas Rengifo Keller, a research analyst at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Even if food was distributed equally, something close to inconceivable in North Korea, where the elite and military take priority, Rengifo Keller said you would have hunger-related deaths. South Korean officials agree with that assessment, with Seoul announcing recently that it believes deaths from starvation are occurring in some areas of the country. Though producing solid evidence to back up those claims is made difficult by the country's isolation, few experts doubt its assessment. Even before the COVID pandemic, nearly half of the North Korean population was undernourished, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. 3 years of closed borders and isolation can only have made matters worse. In a sign of just how desperate the situation has become, North Korean leaders Kim Jong-un held a 4-day workers' party meeting this week to discuss a revamp of the country's agriculture sector, calling for a fundamental transformation, a farming and state economic plans, and a need to strengthen state control of farming. But various experts say Pyongyang has only itself to blame for the problems during the pandemic. Pyongyang ramped up its isolationist tenderness and tendency, erecting a second layer of fencing along 300 kilometers of its border with China and squeezing what little cross-border trade it had access to. And in the past year, it has spent precious resources carrying out a record number of missile tests. There has been shoot on-site orders at the border that were put in place in August 2020, a blockade on travel and trade, which has included what very limited officials there was before. Yes, said Lina Yoon, a senior researcher at Human Rights Watch. During 2022, China officially exported nearly 56 million kilograms of wheat or muslin flour and 53,280 kgs of cereals in grain flakes to North Korea, according to Chinese customs data. But Pyongyang's clampdown has strangled of unofficial trade, which, as Moon points out, is one of the main lifelines of the markets inside North Korea, where ordinary North Koreans buy products. Cases in which people smuggle Chinese products into the country with a bribe to a border guard to look the other way have been next to non-existent since the borders closed. Various experts say the root problem is years of economic mismanagement, and that Kim efforts to ramp up state control further will only make things worse. The North Korean borders need to open, and they need to restart trade, and they need to bring these things in for agriculture to improve, and they need food to feed the people. But right now they are prioritizing isolation, they are prioritizing repression, Yoon said. But as Rengifo Keller pointed out, it is not in Kim's interest to allow the unofficial trade of the past to re-emerge in this dynastically ruled country. The regime does not want a flourishing entrepreneurial class that can threaten its power. Then there are missiles test Kim remains obsessed with, and his constant refusal of offers of aid from its neighbor. South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin told CNN in an interview last week that the only way the North Korea can get out of this trouble is to come back to the dialogue table and accept our humanitarian offer to the North Korea and make a better choice for the future. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo told CNN Thursday said that the situation is worsening our intelligence shows because it is clear that their policies are changing. The chairman Kim Jong-un would like to put a lot of pressure to make its state dictated, supply of food to their people, which will not function. Seoul's Ministry of Unification was quick to point out Pyongyang continues to focus on its missile and nuclear program rather than feeding its own people. In a briefing last month, Vice Spokesperson Lee Huo-jang said according to local and international research institutions, if North Korea had used the expense of the missile it launched last year on food supplies, it would have been enough to purchase over 1 million tons of food, believed to be more than enough to cover North Korea's annual food shortage. Seoul Rural Development Agency believes North Korea's crop production last year was 4% lower than the year before, suffering flooding and adverse weather. Behind the report, Glory Group TV, Delhi, India.